So today we will look at a topic in FP2 called the method of differences, which is part of series. Let's look at one example where they give us the sigma notation from r equals 1 to n of this fraction here. As you know, a fraction of this form can be broken down into partial fractions via partial fraction decomposition. As we know, we have learned this in P3 as well. This can be written into two fractions where 1 over r plus 1 is equals to a constant a divided by r. So this is simple P3 content, therefore we'll fast forward this content to its actual solutions. Therefore, as you can see, the partial fraction 1 over r plus 1 can be written in the form 1 over r minus 1 over r plus 1. Remember that the method of differences in series can only be used when there's a minus sign in the middle. If there's a plus sign, you cannot use it. Hence why the name method of differences. So as you can see, we can write the sigma notated series in this form in terms of partial fractions. So what we do in this type of question where we write this in terms of n, where we find a equation in terms of n, the first thing we do is, first of all, we find what happens to this series function when r equals 1. So what happens when r equals 1? When r equals 1, basically you substitute this value into this partial fractions here, and then you get 1 over 1 minus 1 over 1 plus 1, which is 2. It is always better to write this on a decline, in the sense where you are going down instead of writing all of them horizontally. So writing this vertically is a good idea, so it allows you to see which terms exactly cancel each other out, which is basically the method behind the method of differences, and we'll go more into this. So basically, instead of writing this horizontally, I'll be putting the plus sign here, which indicates that we're summing this all together, and then we find what happens when r equals to 2. When r equals to 2, then you get 1 over 2 minus 1 over 2 plus 1, which is 3. The next one, it is important to understand that you do not continue this until n, but rather you just see the pattern, the general pattern across all these terms, and eventually come into conclusion. That is exactly what I'll be doing here. And then here it becomes 1 over 3. I can already see a pattern across these numbers here, where I can see this plus half and minus half cancels, plus 1/3 and minus 1/3 cancels. We'll go for another value, which is r equals to 4 plus 1 over 4 minus 1 over 5. As you can see here, this minus half and plus half cancels, this plus 1/3 and minus 1/3 cancels, and this plus 1/4 and minus 1/4 cancels. Same with when r equals 5. When r equals 5, you get 1 over 5 here, and that plus 1 over 5 will cancel out with the minus 1 over 5. And it will happen with the rest of the terms as well. And we know that when r equals to n, you get 1 over n minus 1 over n plus 1. And because we know that this bottom term here, which is 1 over n, will cancel out with a term here, which basically makes sense, right? The term that is going to be above r equals n is going to be r equals to n minus 1. And when you sub it here into the formula, which is basically this, when you sub n minus 1 into r, you get 1 over n minus 1 and minus 1 over n, because n minus 1 plus 1 minus 1 and plus 1 cancels each other. Basically 1 over n minus 1 plus 1. When you substitute n minus 1 instead of r, so these two cancel out to give you 1 over n. So in this case, when you substitute n minus 1 to r, you get n minus 1 here minus 1 over n. As you can see, these values cancel each other out, and this value here will also be cancelled out with another value on top to the right here. So this also cancels out. As you can see, it is only the 1 remaining here, and also the minus 1 over n plus 1 term remaining here. Those are the only remaining terms when you simplify this. So what you can do is, you can, instead of writing after this method, you can basically write this as a simplified equation or expression, which is going to be the 1 here minus the 1 over n plus 1 fraction. So it's going to be 1 minus 1 over n plus 1. And basically when you simplify this, you can cross multiply n plus 1 minus 1 the common denominator, which is going to be n plus 1. This cancels out, giving you n over n plus 1. So guys, that is how you do the method of differences in for the pure mathematics 2, and I'll see you in the next video.